this. I don't blame the New York Times for running the story, and my right-wing friends don't get crazy when I say that. This story was going to get out one way or another because WikiLeaks gave it to other newspapers in Europe, and it's on their website, so it was going to get around the world in no time flat anyway, whether the Times ran it or not. So my gripe is not with the New York Times for running it. My gripe is about hypocrisy. 1 year ago this month, you remember, Bill, those confidential emails about climate global warming were leaked
in England.
In England, right. And the New York Times science writer, who has a New York Times blog about just this subject, wrote this: "The documents appear to have been acquired illegally and contain all manner of private information and statements that were never intended for the public eye, so they won't be posted here."
Aha!
All right. So we have a great concern for privacy and confidentiality when the global warming community becomes suspect, but when it's United States secrets, they have a different level.
Couldn't an argument be
concern.
made that the level of importance is greater in the State Department document thing? And to be fair, the New York Post, a conservative newspaper, also put it on the front page, and most other newspapers dealt with it as well. So I'm not singling out the New York Times here, but what you say is absolutely true. There is selective journalistic
outrage.
Yeah.
And you make a good point that yes, the level of importance between ClimateGate and U.S. State Department secrets is different. I grant you that. But how about this? Once these leaks got out and nothing was done immediately about it, they're not trying to find Mr. Assange, for instance. I shouldn't say they're not trying to find him. They haven't found him. This blows up the entire concept of confidentiality, and therefore anything is fair game, including the New York Times. Now, whether the New York Times is the most important news organization in America or just close to it, it's a very important news organization. And therefore, I'm calling on all the principal journalists at the New York Times to send to either you, Bill, or to me all the confidential emails and memos that they can get their hands on that were sent out by Bill Keller, the executive producer of the paper, who okayed the publication of these secrets, and send them to us, not because we have a constitutional right to broadcast them, but because it would be good for America. More information is better than less information. That's what the New York Times is always telling us. So all you principal journalists there, send us the confidential memos. Maybe they embarrass some people. What's a little embarrassment? Send it to us and we'll put it on the air.
Okay. So right now across the landscape, you don't see any journalistic operations doing anything wrong in this WikiLeaks thing. The stuff was.
No, I just think it's complicated because it does America no good. There's no question about that. As you said earlier in the show, who's going to trust talking to any diplomat knowing that it may get out on page 1 of the New York Times 10 minutes later? But as long as it's going to get out there anyway on the WikiLeaks site or on in other newspapers that would be put on the web, I don't fault the New York Times for
okay. Now, Brit Hume and I debated the president's reaction to this, and I believe I'm one of the few journalists in the country that is criticizing him. I think he should take a much stronger stand about it. Which side do you come down on that?
I rarely come down seeing both points, but Brit Hume makes a good point that if the administration makes a big deal out of it, it really makes them look like they're playing defense here. And I think you made a very good point, too, when you said it makes the administration look weak. You know what? You also said this, and I think this is the most important point. Nobody's afraid of the United States. Nobody's afraid of this administration.
Absolutely not. You see it every day.
That doesn't do us a lot of good in the world community.
No, they had to find this Assange, and no, I'm not going to do that. All right. Finally, the San Francisco Chronicle, very, very liberal paper, broke the story about the nurses union behind Nikki Diaz. So that's heartening to me. that they actually broke that story. And, you know, so now we know this whole thing was a big setup. It was politically motivated, and old Nikki, I think, is getting, you know, bucks flowing in there like crazy because she hurt Meg Whitman.
Yeah, I would not deport the house servant or maid or whatever she was called. I would not deport her, but I would deport Gloria Allred. I think
where? Where
we
would
could
you
all
send?
get behind that one.
Where would you send Miss Allred?
How about maybe Iran? How about that?
Ooh.
I don't know. You know.
Ooh. I don't know if she'd be comfortable with it.
I don't think the Iranians would be comfortable with that.
I don't know. We'll see. Bernie Goldberg said it, not O'Reilly. Let's write that down. Goldberg said that, not O'Reilly, everyone. Thank you. Reality Check on deck tonight.